In the not-too-distant future, Ukraine will mark 500 days since Russia's invasion. The Ukrainians are fighting for their life, but many wonder if and when Kyiv's Western backers will get war fatigue. Jake Sullivan oversees America's role in the war in Ukraine. More now of my interview with him. Jake, when you think about the Ukrainian counteroffensive, what are you looking for to see that, in fact, the massive investments the United States has made in helping Ukraine are paying off?
Well, first, this is not an exam. We're not grading Ukraine's counteroffensive and saying, you did well based on what we gave you, or you did poorly. What we want to do is support Ukraine to make as much progress as possible on the battlefield so that it is in the strongest possible position at the negotiating table. And we do believe that this counteroffensive will allow Ukraine to take strategically significant territory back from Russia, areas occupied by Russia that are rightfully sovereign Ukrainian territory. Exactly how much, in what places, that will be up to developments on the ground as the Ukrainians get this counteroffensive underway. But we believe that the Ukrainians will meet with success in this counteroffensive, and we will continue to support them as they seek to defend themselves against Russia's ongoing aggression.
But as you imply in your answer, the success you hope will then get translated into a strong negotiating position. So you do expect maybe by the end of this year that there will be negotiations about some kind of armistice or deal of some kind?
Well, I'm not going to put a timetable on it because, as you know, war is unpredictable, and how developments on the battlefield unfold will have a major impact on how developments at the negotiating table unfold. But what I will say is this: President Zelensky himself has said that this war will end ultimately through diplomacy. And as you heard from Secretary Blinken in a speech he gave this week, the United States believes that any just peace must be based on some foundational principles. One of those principles is rooted in the United Nations Charter, and it is the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And by the way, the countries that you described in your opening statement, whether it's India or Turkey or Indonesia or others, they have all spoken out about the need to protect the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Brazil, for example, has voted for UN General Assembly resolutions that uphold Ukraine's territorial integrity. Other countries have indicated, both in public and in private, that that is the sine qua non of a fair and just settlement here. So that's what we will be driving for.
Do you think that China, now seeming to want to enter into the Russia-Ukraine negotiation, sending an envoy, Xi talking to Zelensky, are these significant moves that suggest that China will put some pressure on Russia to back off in some way?
Well, we believe that China should play a constructive role in helping bring about an end to the war in Ukraine. And that comes back to that same principle I was talking about a minute ago, the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And in fact, if you look at the 12 principles China put forward in its peace formula, the first principle was that. It was about the inviolability of a nation's sovereignty and the fact that borders should not be changed by force. So it really is up to China to make its determination as to whether it's going to lean in here to support that principle of sovereignty and to indicate to Russia that it will stand behind an outcome in which Ukraine gets its sovereignty back. Whether China does that or not is unclear. They've been tentative so far. I think they're still trying to decide how they want to proceed. But we support the PRC playing a role, a constructive role, in a just peace based on the principles of the UN Charter.
Henry Kissinger, who turns 100 or has already turned 100 this year, gave an interview in The Economist in which he said that he thought that U.S.-China relations were in the classic pre-World War I situation when neither side felt they had any political room to make concessions or to make overtures, and that the implication was we're sort of stumbling our way into something that could turn into a very serious conflict. Do you agree?
I sat in the room with President Biden when he met with President Xi in Bali last year, and that was not my experience. I saw two leaders who are actually trying to reach understanding, even if we have different points of view and even if we are in a deeply competitive relationship, on some of the fundamentals in this dynamic, and the desire on both parts to put a floor under the relationship, to manage the competition responsibly, to ensure that competition does not become conflict. And there are a number of different elements to that. But one of the key ones is that as we have intense competition, we also have intense diplomacy. So I just sat down for 2 days with my counterpart, Wang Yi, and talked through all of the strategic issues in our relationship. And we will, I hope, soon see American officials engaging at senior levels with their Chinese counterparts over the coming months to continue that work. And then at some point we will see President Biden and President Xi come back together again. So as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing inconsistent with, on the one hand, competing vigorously in important domains on economics and technology, and also ensuring that that competition does not veer into conflict or confrontation. That is the firm conviction of President Biden. That is how he will responsibly manage this relationship, and we believe there is nothing inevitable about some kind of conflict or Cold War between the U.S. and China.
So the United States and China did $700 billion of trade with each other in the last year. Is it your goal to allow that trade to expand and for the both sides to participate in a kind of growing pie? Or do you think that there needs to be more decoupling, that those numbers need to stay stagnant or maybe even go down?
Well, at the G7 in Hiroshima, the major Western democracies came together around a simple formula. We are for de-risking, not for decoupling. We are not looking to decouple our economy from China. We are not looking to end trade between the United States and China. But we are looking to de-risk. What does that mean? It means three things. First, it means that we need secure, resilient supply chains in critical goods like clean energy technologies and semiconductors so that we're not reliant on any one country. Second, it means that we need to protect our most advanced technologies, especially those with military applications, so those technologies cannot be used to harm our security. And third, it means that we need to fundamentally invest in the sources of our own industrial capacity here at home so that we have the ability to grow and produce some of the critical goods that we are going to need to rely on in the years ahead, whether that's in the field of technology or health or clean energy. And that is what we intend to do, not to decouple.